Watch the Houston Astros make another run for the World Series? Well, we'll have to talk about this on a special edition of the Locked On Astros podcast that starts now.
Alvarez hits a high drive center field. Beer leans back. This game is turned upside down. There's the runner. Fly ball down the right field line. Tucker comes on. Kyle Tucker. This time they finish the job.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on Twitter at Eric Talk Stros. Find the show at Locked On Astros, your team every day. I'm joined by special guest Patrick Creighton from 97.5 and Gallery Sports. Where can I find you at?
You find me at Patrick Creighton 1 on Twitter. You get us on ESPN975.com. On the Twitch stream when the show is on twitch.tv/ESPN975 and at gallerysports.com.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking about the RSN network, what's going to happen with AT&T Sportsnet. Are we going to have any interruptions to the game broadcast this year? And what's going on with the whole situation? Why are we where we are with the situation? And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. Whether it's on YouTube, go and subscribe to us, give us big fat thumbs up, and go ahead and make us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go and check us out. All right, so I know that the Astros and Rockets have already tried to do this whole purchasing the regional network and trying to run it, and then they had to sell it to AT&T Sportsnet, I believe, in the past. I believe it was only for $1,000 that they sold it. So can you tell us, Patrick, why are we where we are with the AT&T Sportsnet?
Well, if you remember with CSN Houston, because I was actually in the courtroom several days with the CSN Houston bankruptcy case. And, David Barron back then, who was still an active member of the Chronicle as opposed to a retired member of the Chronicles. Right. I hope I live long enough to be retirement age. I hope I get there. But a lot of the problem there was they couldn't get carriage. And if you remember at the time, the Astros were in the stretch of losing 100 games 3 years in a row. The Rockets weren't really very good yet either. And, at the time everybody thought Jim Creighton was just blocking all these carriage deals, but they had a third partner, and that was Comcast. Comcast was the one who was responsible for finding the carriage deals. And in the process, they couldn't find any good carriage deals. So they're bringing lousy ones to Jim Creighton, who was rejecting them. The judge in open court basically admonished Comcast for bringing deals that they knew were going to be loser deals long-term, and that Jim Creighton was right for rejecting these deals. This is kind of where the public perception of Jim Creighton turns, that he's no longer the bad guy who won't let anybody watch TV. He's no longer the bad guy who's just greedy and wants to make all his money. And it turned out he was making the right decision. And I'd seen the article today. David Barron said that they bought AT&T and DirecTV that had not merged yet. AT&T would buy DirecTV the following year. That they bought it for $1,000. At the time, he reported they bought it for $5,000. So I don't know if this was a typo on his part or whatnot, but all the reporting from when the bankruptcy actually happened in 2014 said they bought it for $5,000. But either way, they bought it for like a ham sandwich, right? Rebranded it as what was Root Sports back then, and then became AT&T Sportsnet Southwest. Well, AT&T ultimately sold their RSNs to Discovery. So so the Warner Brothers Discovery is now the owner of the channel, not the original AT&T ownership. So they don't want to be in the RSN game. And some of the deals aren't as sweet as other deals, right? So they reported that, the Astros get about $72 million a year in rights fees from AT&T Sportsnet Southwest, and the Rockets get about $48 million. and that because of reductions in subscribers, like there was 1.5 million subscribers in 2015, and now there's like 855,000 because people are finding alternate ways of getting their television. So there are a lot of streamers. I'm a cord cutter. I got rid of Comcast, just paying $150 a month for one television.
Right.
Instead, I can, even though I hate paying Fubo $70 a month, I can put it on any TV I want. I can take it with me on my phone. I can bring it on my iPad, on my laptop. It's much easier to have that streaming content than to have one set-top box and pay $150 a month and I can't watch it in the other room. The price for cable is just, and satellite is worse. And their customer service is terrible. I got rid of DirecTV because you had to call up every other month to, okay, what's the deal this month? Okay, what am I getting next month? Everything was like an ad hoc. Okay, these are the channels you can get this month, and these are the channels you can get next month. And if you want this deal, you got to keep calling back and spending 3 hours on the phone. So yeah, I'd rather shoot myself than go through all of that stuff. That's kind of why we're where we are.
Yeah, it seems like most of the networks are not just like sports, but even like Discovery. And like if you want to watch, like I was very big in Ghost Adventures. If you want to watch the newest Ghost Adventures, you have to have the actual network. I think it's Discovery Plus. Or if you want to go watch Walking Dead, you have to have that thing. And there's just so many. Everything you have to pay for nowadays, and it's not part of the typical package. And I guess that's what everybody's going to. And so they're kind of pushing away from the whole traditional cable thing, but that's also hurting the regional sports networks, is what I'm hearing you saying, is that by going away from that, and then you have to pay that additional, $6 a month, and people are trying to avoid paying that $6 extra a month. And so that's kind of hurting the regional sports networks as well.
Right. So you have to buy up onto the sports plan in order to get in. And I believe that fee in the greater Houston area is $11 a month, of which $6 would go to AT&T Sportsnet Southwest, and then the other money gets split up among whatever other RSNs are in that package, right? So each RSN gets a little piece of that pot. So for the Astros, for their designated MLB footprint, they get that $6 fee in that footprint, and then outside that footprint where the channel is covered, they get a lesser fee. And what's happening is those fees no longer make up all the rights fees the way that they used to. And what you're seeing is the bigger team-owned networks are also adding on like an OTT option. So an over-the-top option, a direct-to-consumer streaming option. So, like you can get, say, Yes Network, the same way you get with HBO. Like if you don't have cable, you can still get HBO because you can subscribe directly to HBO Max. Right. And pay your $15 a month or whatever it is, and still get all the movies and still get, all the shows and whatnot. And that's really the direction of like the next evolution of the RSN is you're going to have the same RSN distribution channel, but what AT&T Sportsnet wouldn't do, which was create a standalone app that you could pay $15-20 a month for to watch. That is now, you'll see people say, oh, well, streaming's not an option. They're comparing streaming versus RSN head to head, like it's one or the other. And the truth is it's not one or the other, it's both. You're going to have an RSN that's going to get you all your rights fees for your regular subscribers. And then for people who aren't subscribers, eventually you're going to be able to get an app where you can just buy the app separately for $15-20 a month or whatever it is, and just be able to watch the app. That is the next evolution. Like Yes Network and Nesson, they're all going that direction. I would expect the Astros, who are always on the forefront of everything, to also be going that direction once this whole process evolves.
So, yeah, in a second, we'll go ahead and talk about what this means for Astros fans, how this is going to affect ticket prices. Before we do that, let's talk about FanDuel. We know that it's midway point of the Rockets season, and they're on their way to the championship. Wait, I don't think they are actually, but there are some teams that are going to the championship, and you want to know what teams to go out and bet on. Well, now's the perfect time to download FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on anything from the money line to point scorers and threes drained, whatever you want. How many home runs would Alvarez hit? How many steals is Kyle Tucker going to get with the limitations on how many throwovers and the shortened distance between bases? There's all these different things you can bet on this year. So plus FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with the same game parlay. So don't miss a chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right. So Rockets, are they going to go to the championship this year?
NIT, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. But
I'm taking North Carolina's spot.
Okay, cool. So I know that the Rockets and the Astros are looking to purchase AT&T Sportsnet and and maybe make it into something where they can continue the coverage. And I know that the commissioner Manfred has said that even if your RSN goes under, we'll still find a way to get it where you can watch your teams this year until everything gets sorted out. But what is this going to look like if the Astros and the Rockets do take over the RSN?
Well, so my understanding to this point is that we're not going to get an interruption in broadcast, right? The Astros and the Rockets are going to have an interruption in rights fees, but we're not going to get an interruption in broadcast. At least that's the most recent plan that I've seen to date.
Right.
Once everything goes through and the Astros and the Rockets make this purchase of the RSN, there really shouldn't be any difference, because what they're doing is they're buying an existing network. So they're buying an existing network that has all its talent under contract, that has its distribution rights under contract through like the 2032 season or something like that. So everything is already in place. They're essentially just walking in and taking over. So instead of, Warner Brothers Discovery writing paychecks, well, the Astros and the Rockets will write paychecks. So there really shouldn't be any difference in that regard. Where the difference potentially comes in is the Astros and the Rockets both being more willing to embrace the technology and create that OTT app where you can buy the app a la carte, as opposed to needing to log in with your cable or your DirecTV subscription in order to access the programming. That you could just create, same as with HBO Max, you can just buy your own app every month and you just hit your credit card for the $15-20 and you have access to everything also. Like I said, that's the next evolution. I do think that's going to be part of what happens when the Rockets and the Astros purchase whatever's left of AT&T Sportsnet Southwest. But all your favorite people, Blummer and Julia and right. All those guys, Eschenfeld, they're all going to be there. That's not changing.
Right. And so when Rome Loves Dan says define broadcast, TV, and streaming. And I think with your OTT, that you're talking about streaming app as well, right?
Yeah. So basically, here's right now with the Astros, you can only get games if you have some kind of package. Whether right. You've got Xfinity, whether you've got Consolidated, Uverse, DirecTV, if you're like me and you have Fubo, you have to have some kind of subscription in order to watch the games, whether you're watching them directly over your channel, or whether you're DVRing them and watching them later, or whether you stream them via the app and you log into whatever your system is, right? So if you have Fubo, you can watch it live, and you can also DVR the game and then go back and watch it later. By adding the OTT aspect over the top, meaning direct to consumer, not only can you do all of those things, but then you could also, like I said, the same way you do HBO Max, is you can have a monthly subscription to the app without having a Comcast or whatever. And those things usually cost more than the fees they get from the satellite provider or the cable provider, but because you're not paying anything else, you're more willing to pay. Like I'd be very happy to pay $20 a month for whatever they rebrand the network as and just have the network and ditch the rest of Fubo? Because I don't watch all that other garbage. I just want my damn Astros. I don't care. I don't need to see 50 more reruns of Law and Order from 22 years ago. Just give me the Astros. So $20 here, take my money. Fine. I don't care. Here's my credit card. Don't send me junk mail. That's pretty much it. So that's basically what I mean when we say by streaming is you're adding a streaming option. It doesn't become one or the other. You're adding the streaming option. So you have the RSN model, and then you also have the streaming direct subscription model. And that's kind of what I'm talking about in that regard.
Yeah, the Astros are also in a stronger position. This is from Barron's article that they have distribution contracts with their games through 2032 with Comcast, AT&T, DirecTV. And so a lot of other teams don't have that long of a deal. So the RSN will exist. So it has to be there because they've signed a contract with these other companies. So it's going to be there for a while. So that's a good thing about the Astros, and they're in a better place than most teams because I think somebody asked earlier, how are other teams handling this? And I think some teams are in probably a little bit more trouble than the Astros are, just because of the fact that the Astros have been to the World Series. They do have a lot of interest in people watching. I think Pittsburgh is one of the teams that is AT&T, and I don't know how many people still watch the Pirates or anything, but I know a lot of people want to know this question, like especially with extensions and salaries going up. Is this going to raise ticket prices anymore, you think?
I don't see why it would have any kind of an extra impact on ticket prices. Ticket prices are going to go up because salaries go up, right? I mean,
Right.
Ticket prices go up because the market bears that they go up. Part of I always have to get into my Paul Heyman routine. The reigning, defending, undisputed world champion, Houston Astros, is that you become more in demand, right?
Right.
The ALCS has become the Astros Invitational. They've been there 6 years in a row. If you want to go to the World Series in the American League, you got to play the Astros. That's how it goes this decade. They've been to 4 of the last 6 World Series. They're not coming off 3 straight 100-plus loss seasons. They're the most in-demand team in baseball right now. They're the winningest team in baseball over the last 6 years. So now you're talking about a team that has the hammer and has all the cards. But they're also going to have to start paying guys a little more because, you got a lot of guys going through arbitration. They're trying to buy arbitration years out. If you want to hold your team together, those guys hit free agency and then they want, money. Go figure. So if you want to, keep the team moving forward in years to come, yes, you're going to have to increase payroll, and they understand that. And I think Jim Crane is willing to probably go to the first tier of the luxury tax if he had to, in order to maintain the team being a World Series contender each year. But that being said, the RSN, them purchasing it, I don't think it's a detriment to them. I think it's actually an asset. You now no longer have to worry about a third party being profitable. No longer the Astros got to make their money, the Rockets got to make their money, but then Warner Brothers Discovery, they got to make their money. They got their board of directors who will have to have big, giant, fat monster salaries, and their stockholders. That's gone. You whack them at the head. Now it's just the Astros and the Rockets. It's Jim Crane and Tillman Fertitta looking at a big pie and saying, this is mine, that's yours. And it probably goes about a 60-40 split. So Jim Crane, of course, on the big side. But, yeah, so, I mean, in reality, it lessens their third-party expenses and creates more revenue for them. So it actually winds up being better for them. The ticket prices will go up because the demand for anything live goes up. The demand for sports continues to go up. The demand for winners goes up. So keep winning. We're going to have to pay more. That's why we pay our stupid fees for our cable and DirecTV and hopefully for an app.
Yeah. So I know that they're also going to have to come up with ads. Like they're going to have a whole new something that they probably haven't done before is like advertising department. Like you're going to have like people like getting advertisers for the network. And I'm sure they'll just whoever's doing it currently for the network will probably just stay on. But that's something else that they'll have to worry about. And then they'll have to come up with a new network name because they can't call it AT&T Sportsnet anymore. So you having clever names off the top of your head for what the Astros Rocket network would be called?
Star Sports Network. This way we can give the giant middle finger to Dallas.
Okay. I
Nothing's
was
better. The only thing better than winning or as good as winning is stepping on the throats of Dallas.
Yeah. I was thinking like Space City, just go off the Jersey Space City network or something.
And yes, how many? And just think about how much revenue gets made. How many Space City jerseys or hats did you buy?
I didn't buy any of the jerseys to be honest, but I did buy a couple of hats. I lost one in the Guadalupe River, so I had to buy a new one. But yeah, I bought
So
two of
I
the
have a
hats.
Space City hat. My son has a Space City hat. My son, my wife, and my daughter all have Space City jerseys. Take a wild guess who paid for all of those.
You?
Yeah. So that's part of being a fan and then, in years where you go to the World Series, how much extra stuff do you spend? Okay. Because I bought like 8 World Series hats and 3 hoodies and 5 shirts and a lanyard. Because, after you win, not only do you have to buy for your family, but then you got to buy for like your parents and your brother and your
Right.
sister and then your sister's kids. And so yeah, I probably dropped like $4,000 in merchandise just on, hey, we won a World Series. I got to buy stuff for everybody. So that's every time the team does that. Ching, ching. Being successful is profitable. It's even more profitable than teams that just tank and pocket all the money. But if you're Pittsburgh, you don't really have the opportunity to win, so you have to tank and pocket all the money.
Right. I know. So let's switch to the actual spring training. I know that we let Justin Verlander walk away because we weren't going to pay him the $45 million per season that he wanted. And so the Astros now have a rotation that's minus Lance McCullers. For now, I know he's throwing every other day, just kind of just playing catch right now until he's able to get off the mound. But what do you what are your thoughts about the Astros rotation for the moment?
So, look, obviously they didn't expect Lance McCullers Jr. to come into camp and then, pick up a baseball and go, they didn't were expecting that to happen. So, the fact that he's throwing up again, he's throwing again, he's throwing in the cage, and he said he's pain free. And Dr. Neil Elatrash, who did his Tommy John surgery, reiterated, hey, there's nothing wrong with the ligament, there's nothing wrong with the tendon, there's no tear in the muscle, there's no fracture in the arm, it's just a strain. Those are all positive things. I mean, I know every time something happens at Lance and you say forearm, we know it's elbow, and every time it's Lance and it's elbow, we all hold our collective breath because, well, it's Lance. So from that point of view, the fact that it's just he's not dealing with pain, and you're probably looking at late April, early May for a return for Lance McCullers Jr. I think that's positive, a positive step. You're probably, even if Lance wasn't hurt, you were probably targeting about 160 innings for him max this year after he missed 4.5 months last season. You were probably looking at about 160 innings. And that means, some 5-inning starts, and it probably means, maybe a skip start here or there. The important thing is that Lance is healthy and ready to go, and we get down the stretch in September and into October. That's when you want him, right? Isn't that kind of what didn't we just see that happen last year? I mean, he didn't come back till August, and then, okay, here's Lance for 238 ERA. All right, I'm good with that. People were all worried about Hunter Brown. Oh, my gosh, look, he's walking all these guys. He threw 2 innings, people.
Right.
Did you not watch all last season? Don't give in to Keith Law just because he says he's a reliever with no control, okay? He's coming around on that, by the way. Keith's coming around. He's a good dude. He's coming around on that. But Hunter Brown's going to be fine, as you saw last time. 3 clean innings and 3 punch-outs, right? Early in spring, guys are trying to get the feel of the ball. They're trying to, get the right spin. They're working on their mechanics. They're trying to find their release points. Like I said, I don't pay attention to anything what guys really do for the most part, unless they are in a hardcore position battle, until we get to like the 20th of the month, because everything that happened before that doesn't matter. If they find it right as we're getting into the season, then they're going into the season and they're ready to go. It doesn't matter if they had 3 hits and 50 at-bats before that. If they find the swing on March 26th, we're good. So, from that point of view, don't get crazy when guys have, bad starts or bad performances early in spring, because it's really irrelevant. Where it matters is the catchers, because, you got Corey Lee and Yanner Diaz battling for what's probably going to be 1 spot, unless there's more guys on the IL to start the season than we expect. And right now, Corey Lee, who has probably already had the upper hand because he's the better defensive catcher, and we know how Dusty feels about defense behind the plate. Corey Lee's rocking the hell out of the ball right now. He's like 1140 OPS. So, if Corey Lee can hit, let's say, to an 830 OPS, which is still a really high OPS for a catcher, he probably overtakes Maldi at some point this year because, you can't continue to put Maldi in his 175 batting average out there if Corey Lee is hitting 260 and smashing homers. So, this could be kind of the passing of the torch from Maldi to Corey Lee. And Yainer will have a different role on the team. Maybe he gets called up at some point where they need an extra bat off the bench or they need somebody to DH. Michael Brantley probably not going to be ready to start the season. They're being coy about it, but look, Michael Brantley's probably not going to be ready to start the season. The hope is that Jordan, with the sore hand, will be ready to start the season. But if he's not, we could see Yainer Diaz on the roster. Another guy that we could see on the roster, a guy you mentioned earlier, we could see Justin Durden. I think it's a longer shot for Justin Durden because he's not on the 40-man. But the idea of, hey, if Michael Brantley was unavailable and Jordan was unavailable, you got a little crunch there in outfielders. Jake Myers played yesterday, went 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts, but he's been dealing with a hamstring injury.
Right.
Is he going to be healthy? Is he not going to be healthy? If he's not, they're down 3 outfielders, then I think it's possible that Durden could possibly wind up on the team to start the year. But outside of being down 3 outfielders, I don't think Durden will come. I almost said come north. That's the New Yorker in me. Come north, come west. I don't think he winds up on the opening day roster unless they're down 3 outfielders. But they have been really happy with him. Like he's shown he can cover the 2/3 of the universe. He's got a big arm. He runs really well. He's got natural raw power. Dana Brown was talking the other day. They want to see him work on some things in the batter's box to be a little more consistent. But he's a kid who's probably got a shot, definitely has a shot to be, on the roster next year, and will probably at some point make an appearance this year for at least a limited amount of time.
Yeah, I think the only disadvantage to Corey Lee at this point is he doesn't play first base, and you kind of need somebody kind of back up at first base. But to Dusty Baker's credit, he recognized that and gave him 3 innings playing first base in yesterday's game. And so, or 2 games ago or something, or 2 days ago or something. So I think what you're seeing also is Baker kind of bonding with Hensley and Lee and then Hunter Brown on a fishing trip. And that's something that I don't know if a lot of managers do. They go out, and so he just took him on a fishing trip last off day. So I think that did wonders for Hunter Brown, and they probably just had a time to just say, okay, I can relax. I can just go out there and do what I have to do. And so we'll see what Corey Lee can do, but Diaz is, like you said, probably the better hitter. And so we'll see. But Dearden, I think that he's probably got more of a chance to make this roster than we think. It's just all you have to do is just one of these people that's on the 40-man, just either DFA them or just find. They can always find a room if Dusty Baker and Dana Brown want to get him on the roster, they can get him on the roster. So it's just a matter of finding a way.
There's a few guys on the 40 that they could piece out with. Yeah, that's definitely not an issue for them. But I do think, look, the Astros historically, they want to watch the clock. And I don't think they're going to bring them up unless they truly feel they need them because they don't want to start that clock. That's not different than any other team. That's part of the rules. And I understand it, it aggravates players sometimes, but the reality is they're probably not going to try to start his clock unless they feel they absolutely have to. Yainer Diaz's clock has already started. So, if they need somebody to fill in as a part-time DH because you don't want to play Jordan on the outfield every day, or when you do play Jordan on the outfield, maybe you want a better bat. Well, Yainer might be that bat. First base, David Hensley right now is your backup first baseman. Hensley's your backup first baseman, third baseman. He can play second and third, but they'd probably be more comfortable with Mauricio Dubon at second and third. But Henley can play pretty much anywhere in the infield, which is impressive because he's like 6'6" or 6'7". He's huge. Usually don't see guys that tall playing shortstop. That's why like O'Neal Cruz in Pittsburgh is such a big deal. He's a giant shortstop. But Henley can pretty much play anywhere in the infield. And usually, Jose Abreu is a pretty durable player, so he's probably not going to get a whole lot of days off. But for the time being, I'd expect Hensley would be the primary guy at first base, but they do want to see if they can get more positional flexibility out of Corey Lee. The stuff that we saw with Michael Brantley at first base. Michael Brantley's not playing first base.
Right.
They needed to give Michael Brantley something to do because he wasn't ready to throw from the outfield yet. All right, so don't everybody go going crazy with Michael Brantley at first base. That's he needed to get some work in. They needed to do something with him. You can field grounders and just toss the ball in the bucket as opposed to field grounders in the outfield and then try to throw the ball in. So I am a little concerned that Brantley is not throwing it from the outfield yet. That's he's a little behind on that, obviously. But for the most part, if Michael Brantley can hit, he's going to he'll play. So in the back,
Patrick, I'm kind of disappointed that you're not freaking out over Jose Abreu batting 208 to spring. I mean, shouldn't you be like wanting to find a replacement for him or something?
If I was a moron, yes, I would absolutely be freaking out, pulling out the little bit of hair that I have left. It'll be white and gray anyway. Yeah, like I said, until we get to like between the 20th and the 23rd, right. I don't care what anybody's stats are because you don't have to hit until March 30th. So if you don't find your swing until March 27th, whatever, everything that happened before that is irrelevant because you found your swing March 27th and games count March 30th. Be ready to hit, be on time March 30th. I don't care what else you do in the meantime. Don't get hurt. That's important. Right. Don't get hurt.
All right. Well, Patrick, once again, go and tell us where we can find you, find your writing, and find your show. And thank you once again for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure, brother. Thank you for having me. You can get me on late hits during the week, 7 to 9 p.m., ESPN 97.5, ESPN975.com. We also have a Twitch stream, twitch.tv/ESPN975. You can follow me on Twitter at PCreighton1. You can check out all the stuff that I write, gallerysports.com. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks for coming. And guys, I'll try to come back on later tonight with another edition of Locked On Astros podcast following this spring training game where there doesn't look like it's be a single major league player playing in this game. So that's going to be a very interesting one to talk about. So Patrick, once again, thank you. And guys, thank you for making Locked On Astros podcast your first listen every day. And we'll see you later, and go Stros.